Well, hello, I'm Torben Benau, and this very light picture shows a picture of an operating theater in a hospital where a breast cancer operation is taking place. I'm going to tell you about polymer needles because that's what we make. We make needles that you can inject medicine into the body, but they're not made of steel, they're made of plastic. I'm going to start with the application which has to do with the operating room because our needles are very good, but they're not yet so good so they can penetrate skin. They can penetrate softer material, and first when we started up, we didn't think that that was a business area in itself, but now we're much wiser. We know much better that there's really a huge business opportunity in even our a bit softer needles. And our first business case is on breast cancer operations. When you do a breast cancer operation, imagine yourself in the hospital, in the operating theater, where there's a surgeon and a lot of people around the surgeon in order to make this go the right way. We have started by looking at breast cancer operations for women. In reality, it can be also spread out to other types of cancer operations, but that's our focus in the beginning. This operation takes time, and because the medical surgeon, he wants to make sure that he doesn't remove too much material, on the other hand, all the cancer has to go away. So therefore, they take out the lymph nodes, which are sent to microscopy, and then he will get an answer the day after. And that's not good enough if he wants to make sure to do the right operation. We can offer that he in 10 minutes gets an answer about how much tissue to remove. And that's a lot of money for the hospital. What we can offer, we only have a small fraction of this. We have the needles, which are not made of metal, they're made of plastic. And we have partnered up with a company that make the contrast fluid, which are used inside magnetic resonance scanners. And in such a scanner, you cannot use metals. And that's where we have our opportunity that the plastic needles can be used here in contrast to the steel needles. And that's, as I said, a lot of money, because now you can get the diagnosis while the operation takes place, the surgeon gets an answer. That means, actually, did you know that if you had a breast cancer operation, 15% of those people that had an operation, they have to go back shortly after to have a re-operation to get more tissue removed. Think about the stress, and first of all, think about all the money that the hospital wastes on this. So therefore, 15% has to go back. And then this thing with the time that it takes, I was not telling the quite truth. You can actually do something to get an answer about how much material to remove. There's something called freeze histology, which gives you an answer in 45 minutes. And that's what the hospitals do at the moment. It's not nearly as good as the microscopy, and it's not as good as what we offer. And you can see the difference. 45 minutes where the doctor's standing having nothing to do, and we say only 10 minutes. Again, a lot of money. And then, of course, the value is also much more value for the patients only having to be operated once. As I said, there are other techniques named freeze histology. There's also something called qPSR, which are competing technologies, but they're not as good, and they also require specialized personnel, which we do not. You could also say, magnetic resonance scanner, couldn't you just use another type of needle which is not of metal? You can use ceramic needles, but ceramics, you know China, coffee cups, they break very easily, they're fragile, they clog very easily, and you cannot make them very long, as we can make them almost any length you desire. And of course, we have protected ourselves. The way that we make our needle and the geometry of the needle is patent pending protected. Now, that was what our starting business is at the moment. But we are also looking for other opportunities because there's a lot of soft tissue in the body. And then you can ask, well, why don't we just stay to the well-proven metal needles? Well, there are two very good reasons. One is they're much easier to get rid of. A piece of plastic can be incinerated just like all the bandages and all the other waste that you have related to medical treatment. So it's much better waste situation. The other thing is that we can make needles with more than one channel. That means anything that requires that you put in two agents which then react once they're inside the body or in the tissue. They will have benefit from our needle. So why are we here at this event? We seek some partners. We are engineers. We are very good at developing stuff. We also think we know something about some other areas, but we must admit that there are some areas like regulatory affairs and sales we know too little about. So therefore we seek partners who know more about this, and ideally maybe producers which do other sorts of disposable plastic products for hospitals. But of course I'm also interested in talking to anyone else who thinks this sounds interesting. So this was Polyneedle for improved cancer treatment and for other medical applications. Thank you for your attention.